Let's lead us in an invocation and pledge.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you today with a humble heart, Lord, and a thankful heart for all the moisture we've been given, Lord, and now it's time that we dry out a little bit. I want to lift up our first responders to you as they run into harm's way every day for us and for our community. And I want to lift up our employees as they go out and work tirelessly to make our city function. And please be with us as we make decisions that will be pleasing to you. In your name I pray.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I know we'll start our attending citizens and their business. Anybody who has something they'd like to speak about that's not on our agenda, but I do know we have a presentation we want to make to an officer, I believe, right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you want to go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So it's always a good day when we can add to our family, and this is one of those good days. And what we'd like to do is ask Officer Edgar Castro to come forward. There he is. All right, come up and join me up here, Edgar. So Edgar was born and raised in Long Beach, California, and he made his way to the Panhandle of Texas. He graduated from Hartley High School. Mm-hmm. Hartley has a high school. And so in 2012, and he is a United States Marine. Thank you for your service in the Marine Corps. He's a former Dumas police officer who worked here for 5 years, and you looked at some green grass and looked at a few other little places. Made your way back to us in October this year. We were very, very happy that you're back and stuff. And so, in your service as a Marine and service as a police officer, you've earned a number of different awards, including Valor, and so we're very, very happy to have an experienced officer like you back on the force. Joining him today is his wife Maria. Maria's right there, and his son Sal. And they're going to come forward now, and they're going to pin on his badge of office. So there you go, Sal. All right. Just remember, if he doesn't wince, then you're not doing it right. Any pictures? Everybody? Get your pictures taken.
Now look this way.
All right, and now we'll call Judge Molinex forward, if you would, Judge, to administer the oath of office.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Judge.
If you'll raise your right hand, and I will read it all, if you'll fill in the blanks with your name and position. I
Edgar Castro.
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the police department or the Dumas Police Department with this
City of Dumas.
State of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
So,
Your statement of oath next.
I, Edgar Castro,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation thereof. So help me God.
we got
And this is your City of Dumas Police Department oath, okay? I
Edgar Castro.
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of police officer for,
The City of Dumas.
with the City of Dumas of State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and of this state. I will faithfully enforce all applicable federal, state, and local laws, codes, and ordinances without partiality or prejudice, to the best of my ability. I will faithfully respect all applicable constitutional rights without partiality or prejudice, to the best of my ability. I will obey the orders of the officers appointed over me according to the directives of the Dumas Police Department. I will abide by this oath, so help me God. Congratulations. Happen to have a blue pen?
So let me tell you a little secret about Esgar. He's working today. He's actually on duty, and he had his working clothes on, and he quickly ran home to change clothes, and he didn't have his pen with him. So
We'll let him buy this time.
let him buy this one time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Officer Esgar Castro. Thank you.
All right. It's always nice to have new officers. Congratulations, Officer Castro.
Thank you, Chief.
We will, I know we've got a couple people. Josh, did you have something you wanted to? Oh, sorry. I apologize. I just knew there's one. I didn't want everybody jumping up at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. As many of you know, I'm Josh Sullins. I'm the commander of the VFW and the American Legion here in town. We've done a lot of work to do a lot of good here in town, and we continue to do so. The American Legion post is offering now flags for Texas, American, all different sizes, anything the city may need. And while I understand I am not on the agenda today, I am trying to acquire the city's flag budget, essentially, how much the city spends on flags. And what we offer to the city more is the fact that it helps the post, as well as the fact that our flags tend to fly longer than a lot of the bulk flags that are purchased online, as well as by other means. So the post would be honored if you would consider us for the next meeting, and allow us to do a full budget, as well as what we expect the city to pay for flags every year. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you. Just talk to Bethany. She can get you on the next agenda.
All righty, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Rosana Ramirez, and I'm with Seven Seas Water Group. And I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Pat Sims back at the Texas Municipal League Conference. And we just wanted to talk a little bit about about two things that we saw during that conference, and also what we've seen across Texas. First of all is the need of new water sources for Texas, especially West Texas. We both Texas locals. I live in Corpus Christi. I've been living in Texas for more than 20 years, and Casey is from Austin. And we both are been working with Seven Seas Water to provide cities in Texas with a new source of water. So a little bit about Seven Seas. We are headquartered in Tampa, Florida. We are a leader of water treatment solutions around the world. We have more than 200 plants of water and wastewater treatment in the world, mainly the Caribbean and South America. We were founded in 1997, and we have experience in designing, operating, and maintaining water and wastewater plants around the world. Seven Seas is the original provider of I guess, what we call the creators of the water as a service model. Basically, we come and we have a model that we apply that has been working again and again in the Caribbean, and like I said, South America and Central America. So what we are using and what we are bringing to the table that is new for Texas, new for Texas, not new around the world in other areas, is that we are tapping into what's a very vast resource but very little use in Texas, which is brackish water. So way under the ground, we have large amounts of water that's too salty to use. Basically, we have hundreds of years of water available that right now is not being used. Very little people have tapped into because of how salty it is. It's not usable for irrigation. It's usable for industry or any other agricultural activities. So what we use reverse osmosis to desalinate the water, meaning we remove all salts from the water and we make it potable again. Well, we make it portable. It has never been portable. We make it portable. Desalination, reverse osmosis, is nothing new. It's a very old technology that's been actually in commercial use since the 1950s. So it was invented way before that. Osmosis is what actually our cells use to transfer nutrients and salts from one side of the cell to the other, from inside the cell to outside, or outside the cell to inside the cell. The only thing that we do different is that we put pressure on one side of the membrane. There's a membrane in the middle. We put pressure on one side. The water passes through the membrane. All the salts and constituents that we don't want stay on the other side of the membrane. In the case of brackish water, the water freely passes through the membrane, and all the dissolved minerals that we don't want stay on the other on that side of the membrane, and the clean water goes to the other side of the membrane. That's what we're using now to clean this brackish water that's very deep under Texas soil. What is water as a service? So we start with a contract with municipalities, with countries, in the case, for example, of the Caribbean, that manages the design, building, financing, operating, and maintaining of the treatment infrastructure. We bring everything to the table. We start by gaining an understanding of what's around us in terms of water availability and water resources. We design our plants, we finance our plants, we own them, we operate them, and we turn the water back into the user. We guarantee quantity and quality. So the whatever is underground, we are going to make sure that there's enough, and that the quality that's brought to the table to Texas municipalities or Texas cities is what they are accustomed to. We have successfully done this for more than 25 years. And basically our contracts work in the sense that we own the plants, and we can turn the plants back to you when at the term of the contracts. The advantages of this water as a service. There's no capital outlays. So basically, Seven Seas, who is solely owned by Morgan Stanley, provides the financing up front. We turnkey. Basically, we design, build, and operate our plants. You only pay when services are delivered. So whenever that first water of quality and quantity comes out of the plant, that's when you start paying for the services as a rate of X dollars per 1,000 gallons. Like I mentioned before, we guarantee quality and quantity. And we can use, in this matter, we can use economies of scale. The larger the plant, the lower it's going to be the rate for the municipality or our customers. We use local talent And the reason we do that is because the plants are where you at. So right now we have a plant that's about to start in Alice, Texas. We contracted and hired people from the town. We trained them in our offshore facility, so they are fully trained by the time that the plant starts, and then we license them as well. We have high-end equipment, so all of our plants are going to be brand new equipment that's going to come to the site, and we're going to make sure that those plants run for 25, 30 years that they need to run. Why? Because it's in our best interest that those plants run the way they should be. Something that I get asked again and again is like, well, at the end of 30 years, I don't want a plant that's falling apart whenever you turn it back to me. Well, if you think about it, it's in our best interest that the plant runs all the time, as much as possible, because whenever we produce water is whenever we make money. If the plant is not producing anything, there's no point for us to being there. And that way we can achieve the lowest life cycle cost solution. So project phases. For example, I'm going to take the example of the city of Alice, or Dumas. Let's use Dumas too. We determine the current and future water needs. Across Texas, across West Texas, I guess I could say from Houston all the way to the border, water is getting scarcer as the years go by. And people are looking at desalination from the ocean, bringing water from the Gulf all the way to the north of Texas. One just can't imagine how much the piping is going to cost to bring water up north. But we saw the opportunity and the need, and we put that together. And the need is, of course, water, and the opportunity is that we have groundwater. We have brackish groundwater. Right now, the freshwater aquifers are being depleted at faster rates because we are growing. Texas is growing. Texas is exploding. It's not growing. And those aquifers are being depleted really, really fast. But there's much larger water reservoirs underneath us, below those freshwater aquifers that are not being used. So one thing that we do is we order our own hydrological studies because, again, it's in our best interest that the water is there and the quality is there and the quantity is there. And according to those hydrological studies that determine the quality and quantity of the water, we do an estimation of the pricing, very conservative, on how much that water is going to be. And then we sign an agreement with the municipality or the utilities, who our customer is. Then we move to the second phase of our projects, which is the actual project development. 7Cs funds and managed drilling of the test wells. And we're talking about test wells that can be, how deep?
I know 2,000 feet is what we're doing right now.
About
Just
2,000 feet, that's our test wells. We have right now, Alice is about, the wells are 2,100 feet deep. We drill those test wells on our money, on our budget, because again, that is gonna help us know that there's quantity and quality, that we can actually accomplish what we're there to accomplish. There's no point of us to tell you, oh yeah, we're gonna do this and there's gonna be water, and then we drill the wells and there's no water, there's no quality, there's no quantity, and all of us go home sad or mad. The results from the test wells show the actual quantity and quality, and then we finalize that pricing when we know how much it's actually going to be. According of the quality of the water, how salty it is how difficult it's going to be to treat. Something else that we're finding out with desalting or desalination is that seawater is very expensive to treat. You're talking about very high salinity. Brackish water is not as saline, and it's easier to treat than actual seawater. So that's a great advantage in Texas that we have this huge reservoirs, and second, they're not as hard to treat as, let's say, Gulf water. After we finalize the pricing, we begin construction. We start digging the wells. We start building the water treatment facility. Seven Seas ensures proper permitting with TCEQ. We have our own experts that helps us with TCEQ permitting. Casey is a TCEQ veteran. He worked there for more than 10 years, so he's very familiar with what is required to meet TCEQ permitting standards. And then Seven Seas hires and trains operations for the brackish RO plant. The way we work training operators is that we send them to very awful places in the Caribbean where they can train and work out of plants for several weeks to be able to learn how to run a RO plant. Then they come back and they're cross-trained. So our goal is that as we grow in Texas, that we're going to have a network of operators that are cross-trained in our plants. So let's say there is someone that goes on vacation or is sick in our Alice plant, but our South Texas Water Authority plant operator can cover that plant. We can go. Something that we use is, although customized sounds good, we all would like to have a customized car or a customized house. In this case, we don't customize our plants. Why? Because we have a design that we can repeat. With that comes parts, pumps, valves, meters, you name it, that we can rarely have available for when something breaks. We have our storage of those parts that we can ship anywhere where our plants are. Easy example, back in 2022, when was the hurricane in Brazil? We had a hurricane that went over one of our plants in one of the Caribbean islands. Of course, it was very bad. There was a lot of destruction. Our plant suffered. Pumps were damaged. And we had a private plane that flew the pumps from our Tampa warehouse to the Caribbean, and we had our plant ready to go in 24 hours. Little catch. The power plant was down. But now we learned that we also have generators, so we can actually have our plants running with fresh water in less than 24 hours. So that's something that we're learning with distributing through the Caribbean. So that once our plant is commissioned, we are ready to deliver the water, the contracted water quality and quantity. And that's whenever your first payment is going to come, after that first month of delivering that quality water. So that's kind of in a nutshell what a 7 Seas is all for. This is just a sample of our project schedule. We have approximately 2 years since the signing of the contract until the water is running. That's what we are trying to achieve in Texas. Most of that time, of these 2 years, is actually permitting. So, but that doesn't exclude us from starting to work on the test wells and everything that's necessary to obtain the permitting. We try to do as many things in parallel as possible, so whenever those 2 years come up, we are ready to run. And that's all I have. Any questions?
I'm excited to hear more. We apologize we didn't get you on the schedule today. But I'm sure it's something that we will continue to explore.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to discuss something that is not on our agenda? All right. We'll move on to our consent agenda to consider the approval of the November 5th regular city commission meeting minutes. And item number 2, to consider the approval of paying of the bills. Is there any discussion?
I have discussion on item 2.
Item 2, okay.
So on the bills, under inspection services, the first 4 items, installed pedestals at MC, I'm assuming that's McDade Park. And that was for an event?
Yes.
Correct.
And then troubleshoot a light at, I'm assuming that's Chamber?
Which was that?
Troubleshot light at CHA, so I'm assuming it's Chamber.
At the chamber? Yes, that is correct.
So like on that one, so those two would both be affiliated with the Chamber, but yet we're giving Chamber funds out of hotel motel, but now we're paying bills for them too.
So, the way I understood it when we redid the budget and we did away with the, they call it the communications department, we took that hourly wage and put it in a like a miscellaneous fund. So we're buying all the material because we get it at cost when we hire out a job. We don't pay the tax or the 10% cost that the companies put on it. We get it at cost. And then, so out of that fund, we're using that, and then we just pay the hourly rate that they charge us for the work.
Because we don't have an electrician anymore.
Yeah, because we don't have a full-time electrician.
Are you saying that but the chamber, the way I understand it is that chamber building is our building. The chamber doesn't actually pay for that building, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
I believe that TxDOT gave us the right-of-way to put that building
Right, they did.
in.
Yeah,
Gave it to the city, the land. So we've always maintained that building.
So, let me rephrase that real quick. So as far as the parts go, each department, so say if the water department calls me and they have an electrical project that needs to be done, we'll go over there, we'll look at it with the electricians. They'll order the parts, but they'll charge it to the water department, because like I said, the city gets it at cost. So each department pays for their own parts. And as far as it goes out of my department, I'm just paying the labor out of the miscellaneous fund that we took from the communications department and put it into the miscellaneous fund.
So then the next item, run wire and conduit at dog, what is that? The new dog park, is that the pound?
Yeah, dog pound, or dog park, or whatever it's coming up.
And then later on, when I see it off under park, there's parts that are
So
labeled
Parks Department
to,
should be paying for all the parts over there. Only thing that we should be paying out of the miscellaneous fund is the labor.
okay. So my next question is with this dog park. We allot the Parks Board X number of dollars per year in the budget for projects, right?
Right.
So why is the city turning around and paying for stuff? That's my question when.
Yeah, why wouldn't that come out of
We've
the?
kind of put a hold on that whole project, but yet,
So are you saying like as
Try
far
to-
as like labor or?
why is that not coming out of the $50,000 that we gave to the
that we
Parks
allotted
Department
to the or the Parks
for
Board.
that project?
Why is the
So
city
materials
paying
and
for
everything should have come out of the Parks Department's budget or the Park Board budget.
the board?
Yeah, that should have been out of their budget when Maria or whoever did that. I'm just responsible to make sure that the hourly wages get paid out of the miscellaneous budget that's on my item.
Okay.
And it's nothing on you, I'm just posing questions like, why are we granting this funds and then
So
we're,
it would be similar to like prior, when we had electrician, the city was providing the labor. So our electrician was doing that work for the park board. So now we don't have an electrician, so in lieu of having an electrician, we're paying for it out of this fund.
Right.
I know I agree with what you were saying, though, if there's money coming out, it looks like it should have come out of that park board budget.
right, because if we're allotting $50,000 for that year, whatever projects they're trying to do,
But in the park board budget, we didn't have to budget for the labor, we were just budgeting for the parks because the city was providing that labor.
But is the 50,000 that was allocated to the Parks Board for more capital-related projects rather than maintenance project, or both?
This is a
It is
building
for-
project.
this is a building project, which
Yeah, this would
I
qualify.
would
as
think if
capital.
somebody brings a project for us, that $50,000, you're gonna fit the entire project in that $50,000. versus now we're hit for another 5,200 plus part, and that's just the labor.
So those items related to the dog park should be out of the park
Parks
board
Department.
fund.
Yeah, if that's the way it has operated, I think we need to look at it and make it very decisive what we're doing.
No, right, because this is a different way that we're approaching this, so it just changes the way the park board's gonna have to budget. Where we didn't budget for the electrician, it's gonna have to be budgeted in there. But
And it's easy enough to change. We can change it if that's what you
Totally.
desire. Yeah.
And I think it's the same way with the chamber. There was a question about some troubleshooting some lights at the chamber. And it's always been that way where the city has maintained that building, even though the chamber has a budget. Is that right?
That's correct. Any building or property that we maintain normally just comes out of our, whatever the regular department budget is for that.
So along that same line, the first point that you made on these pedestals, that would have been, that expense should come out of the group that's holding that.
Which would have been Parks Department because it was for the park. But,
It was for the park, it wasn't for an event.
well, that's the thing that we've come across in the past, is we do all this stuff for these events. We're responsible for setting up all the power, make sure everything's working properly, and then we're also have to have somebody on call during the event in case something goes down, but nothing ever comes out of it.
Right.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but in the law, because there is a fine line to be able to hold events and all that, what's the city's participation?
You know,
This ain't the only item, there's
There's
numerous of
plenty.
them out there.
Well, is the pedestals, is it a permanent?
no, they're not permanent. We store them out at Salem Tower, and then whenever we have an event, 2 days before, we go out, set them up, test them, make sure everything's good, and then the day before event, we go back out just to double check everything, make sure kids, nobody's knocked them over, tore them down.
It's a yearly cost per those events,
Yeah.
plus our cleanup and all that then,
I think that
essentially.
should come out of that event.
Which that can all be a conversation for a later date.
Like you were saying, I mean, it happens all year long because we go out and put the little orange trash cans out and dump them. I mean, it's just every event we're involved in.
And it's a cost of doing business and having events. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a line.
So we're not paying the wages of an electrician, so this is where that cost.
This used
would
to
have
be
gone
Mike Marquez, Communications Department. But we don't have a communications department anymore. That was our electrician, and we don't have an electrician.
So Carl, in your budget, do you have a building maintenance fund?
I think we have like $4,000 for the year.
So what do you spend that on?
If stuff that, for the chamber part of it, if we have something go, we maintain, usually though, it's the lights are taken care of by the city, the basic functions. We now have taken over the bathroom part of it, the outside bathrooms, but for the most part, that's about the only time we ever call you guys in, is we have to have something changed out or something like that.
Okay, that's my question.
Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Bills. On the police department, the tactical RC, what is that?
The tactical RC, that was the tactical robot that was approved in this year's budget.
I thought we cut that out of the budget.
No, sir.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as discussed.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the consent agenda as discussed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the formal session. Item number 1 is to consider the approval of the Morton Prime Lift Station bids.
Adolfo couldn't be here today, but T.D. Pierce is here to explain and go over the bids,
Hello, everybody.
show which one should be chosen.
So the bids were received, and we looked at the contractors and the lowest bidders, and we are recommending awarding for the Morton Avenue lift station a total of $1,800,856, and it's to be completed in 220 calendar days. And for the prime lift station, we recommend awarding for a total of $1,344,810, and the completion date is 220 days as well. Both of these will be by Amarillo Utility Contractors. And do you guys have any questions regarding that?
With this 220 days, that concurrent, that both projects be done in the same 220 days?
I believe so, because I can double check, but from what I understood, yes, they're concurrent.
But in any case, I think we've all discussed that we need prime finished first before Morton.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Also, is there any incentive or penalties for this time period? Incentives to finish early or penalties for missing their date?
Our contracts normally include a penalty for exceeding the time,
Okay.
and it'll be in the contract documents.
Okay. That's my question.
Will we get to see those contract documents?
Yes, and once it's awarded, our office will send out the contract documents and then the specifications as well. That'll be included in the specifications.
The only issue I have with this at this moment is we need to get it fixed, but all I have is dollar amounts. I don't know what we're doing.
Okay. Well, I do have the, and
Oh, we're getting lift station.
that's true. I did just hand interim city manager the bid tabs, but I do have a official set of for each lift
Okay.
station.
Okay.
Okay.
And then that is for the Morton lift station, and this is for the prime lift station.
So that's the itemized bid.
Yes, sir.
So usually with these bids, we just have something that kind of says what we're actually buying.
Right. And since it is the same contractor, he split the mobilization cost, so it's kind of
Save
fixed.
on
But
one.
if we're kind of pressed for money, we might be able to work with the demolition cost. So if the city wants to demo the lift station area, and then we can kind of save that money, and then that price could be negotiated. And that's for both lift stations.
And these are sized for future
Yes, sir.
growth? and-
Yes. This is in accordance with the projected population growth.
It's been a while since we've talked about these lift stations. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing we want to ask.
I had a talk with Adolfo about earthworks and also demo, that if the city wanted to take it on, then that would be a deduct.
You bet. Is that something that we're capable of?
I don't know.
If we have the equipment for it? We'll just have to look at it and see.
Have to talk with Cedro and probably talk with
Becomes if something fails. whose
Jose
fault is it?
Esposito.
If something fails, then whose fault is it if we take some of it upon ourselves versus?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think earthworks is something probably any.
Yeah, it's not necessarily
Earthworks could be
building,
done
it's
by
just
us.
removing things from there, which
Existing.
doesn't really have that much of a liability. But you're right, there is some fault there anyways.
So the mob and demob's already been sectioned out? So
I'm sorry,
both of
what?
these say 75,000?
Yes,
That one
so,
does too?
160?
yeah, they're different but they combine their price and then divide it. So that's how they came up with the mobilization. They're fixed on that one, but demolition is negotiable.
Which,
And if you looked into us doing the demo, I mean,
not.
see if we're capable of
I'll get with Cedro and probably Jose, discuss it, we go over the bid documents.
And before it's official, is there a way for the commission to see the contract and have Slater review the contract as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, just send it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've kind of looked at all this stuff ahead of time, so y'all haven't had a chance.
Do you just want their contract documents, or do you want specifications too?
Well, we'd like to see, I mean, it's one thing to say that there's penalties if they don't do it on time. It's a different thing to see it in writing and to know exactly what that contract entails. And so that's just to make sure that we're getting exactly what we're asking for.
Understood.
So there's 70,000 worth of demolition between the two.
You know our equipment. Do you think we've got the equipment to demo and earthwork?
Probably won't figure out,
And-
Brian, you move, I mean, it's gonna be built in another deal, so you wouldn't even demo this until after the fact, until it's operational.
Yeah.
Morton might be a different story.
I was about to say Morton. is
Morton's
gonna
a
be
lot of
little
close area.
harder to get bigger
I don't
equipment
know
in, so it might be.
how easy
not
it is
so
to get in there and do
If we were
demo.
gonna do something, I'd say out there,
prime.
the south location.
And that would not take away demolition costs completely. There's other things they'd have to do,
Yeah.
but the lift station area itself, that part could be reduced.
Any other questions for Adolfo?
So that'd be interesting to get a number from them to say how much if we did,
Okay.
what would be their expectation
Okay,
and what savings there would be.
okay. I will get that information for you.
So do we want to take no action on this, or do we want to approve?
You wanted to get a draft of the contract first, I think. you said.
Contingent.
Contingent on
Yes.
approval of the contract and with the estimation of demo, if we were to demo Prime, is that what we're saying? Can we do that, Slater?
Yeah. I mean,
A contingent approval based on this price? Okay. Well, I'd move that we do we approve the Amarillo Utilities bid contingent on approval of the contract and, with a request for some specifics if we were to provide demo on the Prime.
I'll second.
Including the deadline for the time. I want the 2/20.
Yeah, which liquidated damages in the contract should be spelled out.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Amarillo Utilities as discussed. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Adolfo.
Thank you.
I will get that information to you as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right, or not Adolfo, sorry.
TD.
TD. Wrote it down. Let's see. Item number 2 is to consider the approval of appointment of DEDC directors.
Afternoon, guys. 4 people were up. Sean Frishy, Harold Graw, and Pat Sims have all agreed to stay, so we're asking for your blessing to keep them on the board, and we'll bring another one to you probably in December.
I have no issue with those people on the board, but the letters that we have
Correct.
aren't signed or checked. That we have
Saying
on
that
our
they-
packet,
yeah.
copies. Do we have
Yes,
signed
I
and
wish to
checked?
do.
We do.
Did you sign one?
We do? Okay.
Everybody, yeah. All 3 signed. I don't know.
Just making sure, because they're all blank.
I don't know why they're not in there, but yeah, all of them have signed.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve these, the recommended reappointment of these directors, Harold Grawl, Sean Frishy, and Pat Sims to the DEDC.
And I'd like to refrain from voting.
It's been moved and second that we approve the 3 existing EDC directors as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I got a quick question. Okay, so how does somebody go about getting on the EDC board?
It's just like the one we're having right now. We told the board that if they had anybody they wanted to throw in the hat, we'll contact them, get their bio, and then the board will interview them, vote on them, and then we bring it to y'all. So yeah, with that said, if anybody has anybody they want to throw in the hat,
Well, I'm just curious, because you have people, in anything anybody's associated with, you have people that don't like what's going on, or they like it, whatever. But it's kind of like, well, here's the process. If you don't like something, get involved, so here's the process.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's just a buy, I mean, anybody wants to nominate somebody, then we get a bio from them, and then we'll take it to the board and possibly even do some interviews if we feel like we need to, and then the board will make it a recommendation, and then we bring it to y'all.
Maybe our local press can say something in the next edition that they're looking for applicants.
Yeah, we do have one spot open.
Yeah, we do.
Sir?
Yep, you bet.
Awesome. All right. We'll move on to item number 3 is to consider the approval of resolution number 24-16, submission of community development block grant application.
Alex can't be here today. He's at another event in Amarillo. This resolution, 2416, is just getting our foot into the door that we are interested in a community block grant. Kind of like a raffle. If you don't buy a raffle ticket, you're not going to win. This is our raffle ticket to get in. And because of the size of our population, on an award of $750,000, our match is $112,500. And the way when the awards are given, it's over 2 budget years. So you can look to the future and plan to budget that $112,500 if you're so awarded. So I just need approval for the resolution.
Is it best practice I read this resolution, or can we do it? Okay. You're good. Everybody had a chance to read the resolution?
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 2416 for the community block grant.
And back to your question, it's a multi-step process, and so if you're selected, it will come back for y'all to approve. The good thing, and I may have missed it, but the cost that's associated with it, my understanding is that only triggers if you're awarded.
Right.
So there's lots of, I don't know that there's lots of upside, but there's certainly no downside to these. And this is just the time of the year. Everybody's doing them and trying to get positioned.
The $112,500 is 15% of $750,000. So whatever you're awarded, your fee is, your matching amount is 15% of the award.
15 or 50?
15, 1-5.
15. So the max we're out's at 15%.
Gotcha.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 24-16, submitting of a community development block grant application. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is to consider the approval of resolution number 24-17, authorizing representatives in matters pertaining to the city's participation in the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program.
So this is the next phase. You got a ticket. So the next phase, that if your ticket's drawn, this is, you authorize PRPC. They do all the legwork and all the manipulations and calculations and paper shuffling that goes along. You just authorize. That's what the 15% fee is for, is to cover their work. So you're just authorizing them to be our representative.
And that the city manager and the mayor will act on
Right.
the municipality. Okay. I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 24-17.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution number 24-17. As discussed, all those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item number 5 is to consider the approval of creating a special utility class for the public schools with special water rates. Ben?
If you recall, our last meeting, we discussed and Monty Heisinger, Superintendent of Schools, presented to us the cost that the city, the school district has with the new commercial water rates that go into effect December 1st. And they requested that they be put in a special utility class for public schools. And if you recall, Slater also mentioned that he's familiar with other municipalities doing the same thing. But we didn't take action on it. We couldn't because it was only for discussion. So I'm asking you to make a decision to put them in a special utility class. And then I'm also asking you to choose what rate you want them to have. You could have the same as the residential rate that citizens have, or you can leave them in the commercial rate. Well, they don't want to be in the commercial rate. So it's a difference between $3.51 per 1,000 gallons and $7 per 1,000 gallons. So I'm asking if you would make a choice.
But hypothetically, could we not set it like 4 1/4 and then freeze it for 3 years?
Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Is it 351, is that what they're paying? They're in.
No, they will,
I
if you
mean-
don't make any decision at all, they'll be paying $7 per gallon.
To commercial.
But I
Because they're
mean,
in commercial, but all the residentials are $3.
Previously, before we made the change, what were they paying?
What's current commercial?
51?
Current commercial,
It was
$3.51.
the same as
okay, that's what it is.
Oh. Yeah, the only difference in commercial and residential up to this point was the $25 minimum usage
Right.
versus $20 minimum usage.
Right.
I would be in favor of maybe going $4 or something like that and then locking it in at that.
How about $1 over residential?
I think
That'd be $4.50.
that you can grow with that
It would always move.
as opposed to having to come back and change it each time. And that sets a class price, so I think that's the way to do it. I mean, I'm not telling you a dollar's the way to do it, but just to tag it to something else that,
Difference.
yeah.
So effectively, if we change this
The residential, if that's
rate
what.
next year to 360 or whatever, then the district would move to 460.
You also have the ability, or we have the ability in utility billing, we have the normal usage water that goes into the building for drinking and other things, as opposed to the irrigation meters. And so in theory, you could set 2 rates, one for the water into the building and one for irrigation water. I know that complicates your decision, but you have that ability.
Are we able to just set this just for the school district?
Yes.
I mean, we're not gonna have
Right.
colleges and preschools and everything coming at us next.
Not gonna say we're not. It's possible.
It would have to be future decisions to put them, such entities in that category.
You are opening the can of worms.
I think you can manage the public-private part of this. I would say probably the one that comes closest is how you treat Amarillo College. I mean, that's much more akin under the statutory scheme in Texas to a public school system as opposed to the others. And I think, I mean, for what it's worth, and I'm not advocating, I mean, I think we do some work for Amarillo College, probably more importantly, Courtney, who y'all see a lot, her dad's general counsel and works, is an employee there. But I think most places, if they include anything else, it is a public college district, so.
I think the argument that Mr. Heisinger made, that they're funded through the state, they don't have the opportunity to change their rates as opposed to a college or a preschool.
That may, and, yeah.
Strictly off of tax.
Well, and I think if we made this class to where it covers a educational facility that does not require a tuition, I mean, that would cover the schools and kind of lock it into that.
Or y'all are thinking on the right ideas. I think what I'd probably recommend at this point, and we can come back, I mean, we gotta solve a today problem, and then we can probably fine tune, we can certainly fine tune. But I would say, that y'all are gonna have a motion to create a class that, and I would say that includes a public school system, a Texas public school system, and this is how we're gonna do the rate, and then we can work on those nuances. I think that gets us through here, and it tells us that it does not apply to, at this point in time, private or, for-profit type deals. I'm really not, that's not disagreeing with what you said. I think it's just kind of forming it, because I like the idea.
You could put it as an independent school district rate.
Yeah.
I like the split rates because it helps incentivize conservation on the
If you
irrigation.
want to go that way, we
Looking
can.
at zero escaping or something to reduce that, and the human consumption falls in line with the residential.
You can't play football in zero escaping.
Well, that's true. You can, you just need more pads.
You didn't go to my middle school.
Goat heads and.
So once it's established, we go back and we review it and look at it. How hard is it to change?
It's not. It's something we do from a fairness perspective. We'd give notice out there. We'd have it on public agendas. But yeah, I mean, anytime we start something, there's gonna be a learning curve, and if we need to adjust up or down, or change the class, that is all doable. But I've seen this commission and how y'all operate. We give some lead time out there so that the stakeholders had an opportunity to address it, and we'd make our decision. I mean, that's the job of this group up here, so, good question.
So the discussion's being, that we put them in an independent school district special class rate. And the other discussion was a possible $1 premium, I guess. Any other thoughts on?
I was thinking maybe, maybe at the $7 for in the building, and maybe 75 cents for the irrigation. Just a suggestion.
Say that again?
Two different rates. The regular rate, commercial rate for anything that is used in the building, regular waters. Any irrigation for grass or plants or flowers, rather than $1, maybe 75 cents.
I looked at their usage for the last 12 months, and granted, you had them on a curtailment for irrigation, and they actually, for that 12-month period, they used more water for building human consumption than they did for irrigation.
Really?
So the 100.
Which they didn't water for a period of time.
Yeah.
too.
Right, that's right.
That's my biggest issue. We have zero idea.
At the last 12 months usage, at the $7 rate, their water bill for 12 months would have increased $138,000. And that's with the curtailment. So you can imagine how it would be in a non-curtailed environment. So I don't know whether you want to do $7 for building use, because that would have been roughly half of, that would have been a $64,000 increase.
And that's primarily, I mean, the kids' use is inside, from toilets, lunchroom, to drinking fountains.
Cafeteria.
I'd be more inclined to tie like $1 on top of the residential rate.
For the whole thing.
And then charge a little more maybe for irrigation.
And I was thinking setting some sort. I mean, we don't want our town to look like trash. And we don't want our schools to look like trash. At least I don't, anyway. And so I think you've got to, how do you manage that, be responsible with the water, but still have something that.
Because the infrastructure cost is going up. That's
Exactly.
why we're
Exactly.
going up.
So how do you be responsible? And I was thinking, and this is something we don't have to make a decision today, I don't think, but I was thinking on the irrigation, putting some sort of limit. Once it goes over a certain amount, it's a higher tier.
We could do that based on gallonage. After you go a certain gallonage level, then it kicks into a higher rate.
And encourage conservation.
And we're seeing that, and interestingly, it's the exact opposite of when I started this, 20-plus years ago. The more you use, the cheaper it got. And then we saw it even, and now we're seeing that. And one of the things, and I don't care what you do, again, we've got potential conflicts, but if you do have, you move up to a level, you can see how it works and adjust. It also gives them some time, having been through their budget process to kind of figure out where they are and to plan accordingly. And not speaking for the public, but, what the public would say is, it's a cost we pass on. It ultimately comes back to a lot of the same taxpayers. But it gives you, y'all have got a lot of flexibility is all I'm saying, to start somewhere and not be bound. And I don't guess anybody has to understand, but they have to understand that that's part of this process is y'all being able to study this no matter what you do to see what works about it and what doesn't.
And I like the idea of $1, even $1.50, but, I don't think, I think we should reduce it personally.
I didn't realize that the majority of their water goes through the building.
Well, I was surprised because they have the human consumption meters are numbered differently than the irrigation meters, so we can run reports on both of them. Now, granted, the last 12 months maybe is not a true picture of a year because they were curtailed on irrigation, but they actually used more for human consumption in that period than they did for irrigation. Now, maybe if they weren't curtailed, it would be the reverse. It would be more for irrigation.
I know when they fired up to get that South Elementary going, that
they used a lot
made
of
a
water.
significant difference in the amount of water usage per day. And so, I personally think putting them as a class of themselves is smart and fair. I'm good with starting with $1 and then let's get through a year and see where we're at.
So you want to
$1 together, like
Just all straight across the board, $1.
We'll segregate the meters, but we'll charge the same rate for both meters.
And then in the next budget cycle, we can review and see what happened, and then make some more educated decisions next time.
This a whole summer.
So the previous rate for commercial before we raised it was $3.51 per 1,000 gallons. So you want them to be at $4.51 per 1,000 gallons?
But I just say like
Additional.
$1
$1 above
the
residential rate.
residential
Oh,
rate.
residential, okay.
That's my motion. I'll make a
Okay,
motion
residential plus
to
$1.
create a special class for independent school district at a rate of $1 above residential rate.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ISD as a special independent school district rate of $1 over residential rate. Current residential rate, or residential rate?
Residential rate.
The current, so that, as it changes, that will change with it.
Current residential rate. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Gotta figure out which line item I was on again. All right. Item 6, consider approval of asset forfeiture local agreement. Ben.
Gentlemen, there was a case decided in 69th Judicial District, and there were seized funds available, but the 69th Judicial District could not give them to us because either the previous agreement was never executed or it had expired. So if you see in your support, there's a new asset forfeiture local agreement that was signed by Chief Pippins and myself and the 69th District Attorney. And so this allows the funds that are due the police department to go into their forfeiture account. And if you recall, just, well, it was back in January, February, those 2 Tahoes were purchased with forfeiture funds.
I'll make the motion to approve the asset forfeiture local agreement between Police Department, 69th District, DA's office.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve asset forfeiture local agreement as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 7 is to consider the approval of annual firm transportation services agreement with West Texas Gas.
This is just it's an annual agreement to transport the gas into the city. This is not the gas purchase
It's
agreement.
just that we use them as our service provider or whatever.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we approve the annual firm transportation service agreement with West Texas
But
Gas.
one second, so on our agreement, and I knew I had something written down. We're saying West Texas Gas, but on the agreement it says El Paso.
Well, then El Paso gives it to West, you know, they're all.
I'm just curious.
El Paso owns the line.
Yeah, it's El Paso's
And West
line.
Texas is transporting it through El Paso's
West
line.
Texas is the one we deal with.
Okay. I just, like I said, that was just something I noticed on the agreement, so. That was the only question I had, sorry. Passed.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the agreement with West Texas Gas for, as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item number 8 is to consider the approval of the drought contingency plan. Ms. Cedro?
This is a requirement from TCEQ every 5 years.
Yes, and so you know, I mean, not so while ago, we had our inspection, and they required that we have to update this drug contingent plan, so it's just to be okay. My staff and I mean, we reviewed and think that we're okay, unless y'all want to change something, put something different on this plan.
I did have something for discussion that came up because we executed this, this last summer. So on, it's number 3B1, page 51 on our,
Which page you say?
page 51,
Okay.
stage 3, B1, where it says,
Weather and golf course.
it may be done, shall be by means of handheld hoses as opposed to sprinklers. I think we ought to make that back into sprinklers,
Right.
because we had people actually just watering with no sprinkler on
Yes,
it.
a sprinkler.
Maybe add to that with a timer, so that it's similar, because you have a lot of properties that don't have automatic sprinklers.
Right, right.
Well, you
I think
could
it was
put
a
it,
big disadvantage not to be able to use a sprinkler with the timer, so it's still responsible, and you're not going off letting it run down the sidewalk.
you could put it on the sprinkler and go to sleep. As opposed to handheld, you gotta be there, so,
So that same wording is also on the next page on 4B1. On the next stage 4, it also says hose ends. Says sprinklers prohibited at all times, so I think we need to strike that and allow sprinklers with timers. I think would be
Yeah, if you approve that change, I mean, we'll make the change.
hose ends, sprinklers with timers.
we can make that change.
Okay, that was the only change I saw and from discussions this last
So-
year.
And on 4Bs.
So the question I have about that is, and I I think it's more time. So I heard more people grappling because people were watering during the day, and the idea of this is to water at night. And so sprinklers, you know, having somebody hold a water hose is controlled during the day, whereas a sprinkler is just automatic. So if we say you can water with a sprinkler anytime, nothing changes. Does that make sense? If we don't water at night. So the idea behind it is not to sprinkle not to water during the day if you can avoid it. But if they use a hose during the day, it's controlled if they got a hot spot or whatever. But if we say you can use a sprinkler anytime, as long as it's timed, well, most sprinklers are timed. And how do we know whether they're timed or not timed?
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
I agree, because it does say, it says it can be, somewhere it says that you can water at any time if it's, each night water shall be by.
I think it says, however, irrigation landscape areas is permitted at any time by means of handheld hose, a faucet-filled bucket, or watering can of 5 gallons or less, drip irrigation. And that's on 51.
Yeah.
Can you just add that?
I always just took it as you
Systems.
can go out there and leave your sprinkler on.
Yeah, well, and I think the thought behind it was to stop people from sprinkling during the day. So you can sprinkle on the opposite days during the hours. And so a lot of citizens, at least the citizens that talked to me about it, a lot of them were confused. They didn't think you could water anything, so they'd get on to people if they were watering with their water hose. Then other people were thinking, well, if I put a sprinkler head into my water hose, then that's watering with a hose, handheld hose. Well, it's not. You know, and so, you know, I like the wording. I don't think we've done a good job of educating, maybe. But that's.
So I think it's two different things, Mayor, if I'm not mistaken. Page 49 speaks to what you're talking about however irrigation of landscape areas is permitted at any time if it is by means of handheld hose, which I agree with on your, what you just said. So I agree in leaving that there.
And that's on 51 too.
Well, 51 is talking about just during the hours, those restricted hours. 4 a.m., 10 a.m., 6 p.m., 10 p.m. is what that one's talking about.
But that's under stage 2.
Right, the other one was stage 2, so under stage 3, it does, let's see.
On stage 3, we may want to, I thought we could do limited in the evening.
Well, you know, if I have a thought that on the hours, everything I've read, once the sun's up, you shouldn't be watering. And at 10 a.m., the sun has been up for 3 hours at least in the summertime. And more incentivize more watering at night. So rather than cutting it off at 10 p.m.
Of course, the sun's up at 6.
The sun's up at 6. And all the watering should be done at night.
But you're back to a disadvantage for folks that don't have automatic.
Well, that's true.
And there's a lot of them.
You can buy a timer and put on your faucet. Just reading the difference between stage 3 and stage 4. When we're increasing the stage, so we gotta put in more restrictions. Stage 3 is saying you can't use hose end sprinklers at all, but you can use your sprinkler system. Stage 4 cuts out sprinklers, period, which I kind of agree with. I mean, if we're in stage 4, we've got issues going on. I think if we want to change the wording on stage 3, we just add that, you know, hose end sprinklers has to be on a timer. I mean, like you said, a lot of people don't have sprinkler systems, but stage 4, I think you leave it as is.
So under stage 3, the use of hose and sprinklers.
With timer.
During the
timers.
During the approved times.
Right.
Yeah, still within the approved times, but with a timer.
And I'm changing it to during daylight hours or during nighttime hours.
Nighttime hours.
Go 6 p.m. to
dusk to dawn, dawn to dusk, or dusk to
You
dawn.
could be watering at 2 in the morning as far as I'm concerned, because the sun's not gonna evaporate the water.
And the other side of that is we use a whole lot less water as a city in the nighttime because people are sleeping.
And by 10 o'clock in the morning, the sun's been up 3 or 4 hours, and it's gonna start evaporating.
When we're in these plans, just to clarify, when these plans are created, it's because our production is not keeping up and not refilling the tanks. So when that call came in this summer, our tanks were getting to critical level. And we were at that time using 50,000 more gallons than we were producing a day. And so, when we're here, it's the idea is to use a whole lot less water.
I agree. Leave stage 4 the way it is, like you said, because that is restricting all water in the sprinklers.
But I do like the hose end with the timer.
When you hit stage 3, you're trying to reduce it by 20%. When you talk about pumping 3 million gallons, 20% is a big chunk of it.
A big number.
Is a big number.
So, but I'm good with the hose end. Personally, I'm good with the hose end sprinklers during those times in stage 3.
With the timer.
With the timer. And then I do think that we should have it dusk till dawn during the nighttime hours, or however that's the best word.
He's stage 3 and on.
Stage 3 and on.
3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4.
So
What's the
we
best
could-
wording for that, Slater? Dusk till dawn?
Well, I was thinking about that, DWI, or no, not DWI, the old days when the headlights, the speed limits.
An hour before and
It was
an hour.
30 minutes, 30 minutes before sunset to 30 minutes after sunrise is, and that deals with, the changes in time. It deals with, as the sun comes up earlier and later throughout the,
What does dusk mean?
30 minutes.
It fixes what does dusk mean?
Yeah. Well, and you remember, I don't know that I was driving back then or driving much, but you remembered, they had nighttime speed limit, and so people would drive without their lights on till the last possible second. That's why they had to put something finite in there, so people weren't driving around in the dark, so they could say, well, no, it's not night.
So, I like that I did 30.
So on 3 and 4, we'll change it both to 30 minutes after sunrise, the limitation, to 30 minutes before sunset.
Yep. Flip that though, so they know it's the nighttime.
Yeah, it's nighttime. That's good.
Any other discussions on the draft?
And we'll bring it back, because this isn't due till December, so we can bring it back. December 3rd meeting. It'd still be all right. Those are the only changes, it's just the time there, and a timer on the end of the sprinkler.
Yeah.
On 3.
On
On
3.
3.
On 4, there's no sprinkler.
Right.
Just one question on the enforcement, when it talks about person, does it need to say something different for entity or business? Or will person suffice? Is it business or?
Somebody have it pulled up right there. Let me just type all it.
Page 58, 57, bottom 57.
I'm okay with person because that's all we can really hold accountable is whoever's doing it. So, an entity is, walls and chairs and floors, but yeah, I'm fine with that.
Break.
Oh, you're right.
Somebody need to go to the restroom? We'll take a 5-minute recess.
So we're not taking any action.
No action at this point.
The analogy was a good one.
Good, how are you, sir?
They were on when I went to work this morning. I was impressed.
That's what.
Thanks for Santa's coming this year.
She's gonna pay.
Thank you for coming. It wasn't quite as much information.
I exchanged information with them, so they got any questions on the power and all that.
I mean, cheap flags on Amazon.
When we usually buy a lot of them, Mr. Howard, sir.
Good, figured out how to fish pretty good.
I don't need all this recorded though.
Thing going your way?
Standing up while I can. I gotta drive to Austin.
You drive from here to Austin?
I got meetings there tomorrow. I gotta be in Graham. I've gotta be in the Hill Center at 9. So I'm just trying to coordinate.
Good, or look at a map or?
While they were on cocaine.
Oh. That is no fun. I do not envy you at all.
Set up some phone calls.
Somebody else is in charge, and then the other factor is we're like cognizant.
So Bethany,
The second one right now.
dated payment, so it's all good. I changed.
After hours.
Yeah, that's what they tell us to do, that is, they exist.
Energy on there.
Yeah, that was the second. Tuesday was ought to be. An executive session.
No, I don't think so. Are glanced. Yeah. I understand. You're right. That's what it depends on. Conditions.
Yeah, so it'll all depend on.
Yeah, but like I said, Renee's the guy that. So
I'll just pull him and find out how often we order them, where we order them from.
Hour and a half. That's why. Well, reverse osmosis took a little bit longer than I thought it would. But it's reverse osmosis. But I'm thinking Alice, Texas. Touch with them, see how much, what did their price of water go up to?
You gotta be careful with those companies, because what are they gonna do with the byproducts?
Well, give it to TxDOT to put on the highways.
I mean, if that's what they're gonna do, sell it to TxDOT, then that needs to be factored in, but I was just looking at I was just thinking about that, because I have saltwater tanks in my house, and I'm huge into the saltwater hobby. And the amount of salt per actual is egregious.
Well, that's the thing, they said brackish water, I don't know how much.
Brackish, the salinity in brackish water is roughly half, but per gallon of water that you were to add salt to, is roughly 8 ounces. So I mean, 8 ounces per gallon. Think about how much salt that is. So that's what I was sitting there thinking.
I don't know where TxDOT gets their brine water from now, so that was my thought.
Yeah, I mean, if you could sell it if they let you, but I think they probably have a backdoor that will talk about it type deal.
Yeah.
Because I dealt with the Vietnam Wall people.
Oh.
You know, we talked to them, and you know, they don't tell you about it whenever you're paying them 12 grand. But then the truck drivers put out donation boxes. So they don't want to talk about it until you know about it, type deal. But yeah, the byproducts of that would be.
I'm okay with that.
We're only allowed to be 2 cycles behind.
That's right. I'm okay with
We
that.
go to the 21.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
All right, everybody ready?
What it is. Did you ever get an answer?
All right, we'll reconvene. And let's see, we are on item number 9, correct? Yeah. Number 9.
Yep.
To consider the approval. To consider the approval of the employee incentive policy. Monica?
Maybe he's a part of here.
Hello. Well, as you can see in what we've included in the agenda, due for various reasons, a lot of people haven't been able to take their vacation, and so the system only allows an 80-hour rollover. Anything over 80 hours, they lose it. So we were hoping about implementing this new program for those who, for whatever reason, have accumulated vacation over 80 and doing like a vacation sellback type of policy for those who have accumulated so much vacation for whatever reason and haven't been able to take it all throughout the year. As you can see, that was in your packet, the total hours. We do have some people that have quite a bit that they're out to lose those hours because only 80 of that will roll over.
And just for those of you that don't know, you may know, I'm not sure. When we do budget, we approve 280 hours for every employee. Whether or not they get to take it as vacation or take it as, or they lose it or whatever, when we're doing the budget, it's 2,080 hours, sorry, not 280, 2,080 hours across the board. So ultimately, we plan on paying them 2,080 hours, whether it's taken through vacation time or whether we're paying them an hourly rate for actually working.
And we have set up caps by years of service. Those who, and you'll see included, there's a few that have quite a bit. Those will be looked at on a case-by-case basis and approved by city manager if he feels, because they're still even paying them only the max amount for their years of service. They're still out to lose quite a bit. And like you said,
Budget that.
it's already
We are
budgeted.
still, if they're not salaried, they are getting paid those hours, they're not taking vacation, so it is still an extra expense on those.
In yours, in the documents in your agenda, we've identified 12 people
So
that
the,
are excess, and those are the people that would be paid out, so to speak, at the end of this year, or in the month of December.
And this is a good move. I mean, I'm working on this with multiple cities that these are getting so far out of control. I had a fire chief with a separation from employment, had been there forever, fire chief, fire marshal, I don't remember. It was $36,000.
just for one person.
Yeah, and so I'm changing policy manuals as fast as I can, the 3 or 4 in the past week with, and not just this, but just so that we limit and control these things. I think this is very important.
This is a large number this year, but if we do this every December, the number in theory should decrease, because this is an accumulation over
So-
some period of time.
If we pay this out this year, we're talking almost $59,000.
No, only the 12 people.
59,000 would be if everybody cashes out their amounts here. The 12 people that are highlighted are the ones that are over the caps. Some of them are under caps. The 58,922 is if everybody chooses to cash out that amount. But some people may take
The vacation.
some of the vacation and only take 20 hours of capping out or whatever. They don't have to take all of it, but they can take up to it.
But if they don't cash it out or take it.
They lose it.
Lose it.
Correct.
So
They should do one or the other, or a combination of both, depending on what. And the issue that I've seen, and the reason I bring this up, is because some of our departments are shorthanded. And so some of the supervisors cannot take vacations. If they take vacations, then their employees can't take vacations, so on and so forth. And so they end up losing that time that they have earned.
Roughly looking at the 12 people, it's about $36,000 of the 58,000.
You have to maintain at 80 hours on the
You
Yes,
have
they-
to keep
They
80
can't
on the
completely deplete it. They have to at least keep 80 hours.
I'm all for helping the employee, I'm all for the employees, but I think this is something we need to do at budget time and actually budget for.
Well, I think it was budgeted for.
It was already budgeted.
And it's starting.
If these people would have taken vacation throughout the year, we would have already paid it out. It would have just been spread out.
We're still gonna pay them their salary plus an extra check, right?
You're paying for the previous years that wasn't taken.
That's what it amounts to.
Right, so if I'm working, last year, I lost 100 hours, so I'm at 80. So when I accumulate this year, I've accumulated however many hours. So yeah, if you have a couple people, which you can see who those people are, they're the ones, like you have 179 carryover, 89 carryover, 83. Those are people that have been here for multiple years that have.
That they accumulate every month at two days just because they've been here so long, and they're at that tier on how they're accumulating their hours, their vacation hours.
And they continue to not take vacation year after year, and that's why they're at that.
Okay.
So,
So like the one that says 259,
yep,
He accumulates 2 days every month.
so every year he loses some and it starts at 80 again. But then if he gets 2 days every month, on top of that, starting January 1st, then he's built up by December.
so this would allow him right now to cash out 260.
Correct.
Yes.
And then after this first time,
It'll only be,
caps
what I
out at
said.
70, 60, 50.
Right. We'll get rid of all that.
$36,000 roughly. I just added it up in my head. Then next year it should be considerably less, because right now you're
you're paying for the
paying
previous
for
years.
previous years.
And ultimately, you don't have to pay for the previous. You can do, at the cap out totals, which are the 70 and whatever that we've had, you're at 45,000. I don't think you have that on your sheet, but you
No,
can
I
look at
don't.
this one. Because I did a column with that as well, this cap out total, and that's what these are. 70 hours, 60 hours, 50 hours, 40 hours. They can only do up to that much on a regular basis, but if you do only allow them to cap out versus paying them what they have put in, the hours that they actually should be getting.
To explain the 2,800 hours that's in the budget.
So when we do the budgeting process, if I'm doing a salary or an hourly, it doesn't really matter. We take your hourly rate times 2,080 hours. It's a little different for police and fire, but it all averages out the same. $2,080 times 12 bucks an hour, that's what's budgeted for the year. So at the end of the year, we budgeted $50,000, regardless of whether you've taken vacation time, because that's included in your salary, or whether you have worked the hours. So all we're doing is allowing them to buy that back and get the cash instead of taking the vacation.
So it all nets out this.
Correct, except for this year, because we have a few employees that haven't received that in the past.
I would think anytime you change a program like that, I mean, you gotta make it right from the get-go. Retroactive to make it right and then start.
That's what, we're playing catch-up.
You're playing catch-up. Yeah, it's good that you do it now, not years from now, and then it would be considerably larger.
And we have put in the wording that obviously your firefighters and your police officers are different, but they can't use the holidays, they can't use their birthdays, they can't use that. It's just
Strictly vacation.
vacation that they have earned.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the policy change As presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve let me get over here to the right word.
That's what I was looking for.
I gotta get all the way back up there. All right.
Senate policy.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the employee incentive policy changes as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica and Shannon.
Thank y'all for your work on that.
And just as an aside, while everybody's direct deposit, this will be a
Paper check.
paper check. So
And taxes and,
all taxes will be taken out, but if they have an investment account that's other than their payroll check deposit account, then they could take it to that institution and put it there.
Paper checks to be delivered or mailed?
they will be hand delivered. They will,
Hand delivered.
yeah. We'll probably have them sign off that they received it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Consider approval of ordinance, or item number 10, sorry. Consider approval of ordinance number 1235, amending landfill disposal rates. This is our first reading.
Last meeting, you indicated that you were willing to do the minimum fee of $7 for landfill, even though that we had a rate of $34.30 per ton, but if someone comes in with just a little bit in the trunk of their car, you know, it's 51 cents, or it's something minimal, and so it'd be a $7 minimum. At the time, it was suggested to us by Brian that since the original ordinance was from 2013, we should look at our current landfill rates. Currently, Dalhart's at $32, Canyon's at $30, Amarillo's at $38. We're at $36. Pampa's $46, but Pampa handles Borgers. Borger doesn't have a landfill, so they acquire all of Borgers. We acquire all of Cactus and Sunray also. So that's why I bumped it up to $40. If you recall, the Cedro told us a couple months ago that we'll be finishing our current landfill cell probably around the first of this year, in 2 months. And then that puts us on the last cell of the landfill.
Of the top 4.
Right. And then after that, we will have to construct a new landfill, and the previous one, digging the hole, was $2 million.
That's like $2 million just to close one down.
So I'm requesting, I'm requesting an increase from $34.30 per ton to $40 per ton with a minimum fee of $7.
Sounds like it's in line. Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 1235, amending the landfill disposal fees. First reading.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we if you go up too fast, then it takes you back. So it's been moved and seconded that we amend the landfill disposal rates as discussed in ordinance number 1235. This is our first reading. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11A, consider and act on adoption on second reading of ordinance number 1236, designating the Summerton Plaza reinvestment zone, establishing the boundaries thereof, and providing an effective date pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. And then item B is the discussion and possible action regarding tax abatement agreement between the City of Dumas and Summerton Plaza Partners LLC pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. Each of you should have an updated version of this in your email. this.
Yeah, so it's just the second reading. Cities is 5 years, hospital and counties are 3 years. And Justin asked that question last time, and he will pay taxes on the appraised value as of now, or when he bought it. The abatement is on the increase when it's remodeled, the new appraised value.
And there's a time change as well, wasn't there? 2 changes.
Well, not really a change. There was a typo that was in the last 2 packets that said that the abatement as it related to the city was for 9 years. That's not correct. It's 5. So that's what's been emailed to y'all so that you would have that. But yeah, that's the only fix on what's been presented to y'all for the abatement part of it. I guess this is really twofold. There's the final reading on the reinvestment zone, which has to be done first, and that needs to be done today because the hospital district, I believe, is meeting tomorrow. And the county's meeting on Monday. They need that in place, and then y'all will do, should you choose to, the abatement, which again is actually a little better than it was presented, I think, last time. It
Actually get property taxes on
immediately.
Yeah.
And again, that's a win-win because right now that property is not taxed. And so get that and the sales tax should be a positive step.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of y'all been by there, but Mr. Maples has got them some roll-offs, and a couple of them got stuff sticking out of them already, so they.
The roll-offs are in front, so they're visible to the public.
Yeah, they're doing work already.
Yeah, the abatement contractor was there yesterday too.
What effective date are we looking for?
Past today.
It's occupation, isn't it? Or is it immediate?
Well, as far as the reinvestment zone?
No, it says in the motion something about an effective date.
Providing an effective date pursuant to chapter
312.
I guess as soon as it's approved, yeah.
It's immediately, isn't it?
Yeah.
The clock starts ticking.
Any other questions?
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 1236.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, we approve ordinance 1236 designating the Summerton Plaza reinvestment zone, establishing the boundaries thereof, and providing for an effective date pursuant to chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. And the abatement as well?
Correct.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is that your second? For the abatement as well? Agreement? All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And we gotta sign. Yes. Item number 12 is consider the approval of ordinance number 1237, short-term rentals. This is the final reading.
Yes. If you recall, this was, we had no such ordinance in the past. We've identified several Airbnb type entities within our city limits, and we suspect there are others, and we're not receiving the proper hotel motel tax that we should on these, and they're not regulated. And so this provides for us setting certain parameters, also requiring an annual $200 permit to have such an establishment within the city. And then, of course, the paying of the proper taxes.
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 1237, final reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 1237, short-term rentals. As presented, all those in favor raise their hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13 is to consider the approval of ordinance number 1238, amending the mobile food vendor location regulations. This is our first reading.
Yes, gentlemen, you recall at last meeting, there was the mobile food truck wanted to be at the Herradura restaurant since they were closing. And he was in the process of leasing the property from the previous, from the current restaurant owner. And so he was seeking a variance to our mobile food truck ordinance. Attorney started looking at it, and that wasn't possible. So on page 118, we are amending the mobile food ordinance to include if the mobile food vendor owns or leases the property on which the mobile food unit is located, the mobile food vendor may be exempt from location regulations herein.
Could we change that to, because the reason why we're
The time frame.
considering this is because they're gonna be permanent. They're gonna go.
That's right, but that allows them to be on now.
Yeah, but I don't wanna, because if I understand this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, when I read this, the first thought was anybody that owns property, if they wanna let a food truck on it, they can let them on it, with no time frame. I think we need to add some sort of time frame.
Is the wording like, if you own the property, you can have a food truck on that property, you can have a food truck on that
Yes.
property? But at this point, that's the only part, you wouldn't be able to lease it out until they change, you know what I'm saying? So like Oz owns the Herradura, if he wanted to put a food truck there, he could, but he can't allow anybody else to.
Yes.
That's how the ordinance states it now.
So what my concern is, and I get why we're changing it, because we said if you don't own it, you can't do it.
Right.
What I'm saying is, the reason why we're considering this is because he's gonna have that for a temporary period of time.
Right.
Until he goes into that restaurant. And so, but this says they could have it on there for a permanent amount of time, and I don't think that's what we want.
Right.
I'd still say the
Restaurant, well, we can't create the attorney says we can't create a variance to this ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, so that, again, this is as complicated, I mean, it doesn't seem like it. This has been as complicated a thing as we've tried to do in a long time because of the way that zone was carved out and done. You know, the kind of what you're talking about is kind of the idea of a variance, but y'all didn't allow for that, which is, yeah, we're gonna do this, or a special use permit, kind of the same thing for this period of time. I don't,
I guess it's a good question, because what we've always been concerned of is open Pandora's box.
yeah.
Okay. So since, if we decide, we haven't made a decision, but if that comes back to us and we decide to add a variance because it's gonna be a temporary location, that doesn't put us at jeopardy. Somebody else comes in that wants to put a permanent location that isn't gonna go into that restaurant. We could still provide, that doesn't, what's good for the goose is we gotta do for everybody, right? Is what
Without question.
a lot of people ask, and so if we put that parameter for the variance, then that still leaves us with the option to say no. Correct.
Or to put a time frame on it.
But yeah, and I don't have the whole deal in front of me, but the way it is it talks about, you know, relief from this part of the ordinance and relief from this part of the ordinance, you know, an appeal, these different things, but it doesn't have it for the part in question. And so part of the issue was the timing, and we had somebody who's gonna invest, you know, I mean, it made a lot of sense, I think, I'm not gonna speak for this group, y'all are right here, but it made sense to do it, but timing was an issue because he was wanting to do this pretty quick. And instead of doing a global change of the ordinance, this was kind of a spot Band-Aid fix. And, but kind of what y'all say is sometimes bad facts end up making bad law. This might be a version of that, which is sometimes good facts can make bad law. I mean, it is a system that can be manipulated, and once you go down it, I mean, there are potential issues.
So could we change that wording to a temporary?
I thought you had the answer.
No. I'd like to, but I don't.
Don't take her to the cattle sale.
They don't own the food truck, it's a temporary,
Options either.
that it's that they could lease it as a temporary basis or with the
For 90
expectation
days.
of a permanent, to create permanent, because I mean, that's the only reason why we're considering it, is so that it could be a.
Give us a page in the packet so I can go to
118.
So it's kind of like, you remember the ordinance we did, like
3.
companies that came in hailstorms and repaired vehicles? That ordinance had a time frame, not more than like 90 days or.
Right.
We did
Traveling
something.
vendors.
Right.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was thinking maximum 90 days per calendar year or something.
Yeah, you gotta put
Because we
something.
don't, I can see where right across the street, that little parking lot could be leased out to,
And it's,
and we could have just what we did not want.
I mean, and you could lease it, you could carve it up and lease it to 5 or 6, and but, I mean, the problem where this starts getting complicated is this, so if you go to C3 and you wanna put a time limit on it, that fundamentally changes where it is now, because if the mobile food vendor owns or leases, but the mobile food vendor may be exempt from the location regulations herein. And so I guess what we need from y'all is, if they own the land, is there still gonna be a time limit on it? Or just if they're leasing the land?
So maybe we need another point in number
3.3.
3A that says, so you don't have vendor owns or leases, you just have another one where if the mobile food vendor leases property.
And I think that's a step in the right direction. You know, one of the things that, this has taken a bad situation down in the Lubbock area. There are some brothers that have a mobile food truck that's a disaster. And they go from community to community. And so they said, you know what? This is, 2 brothers' food. Y'all can't come in anymore. And they have a regional governance system. And so all of a sudden, the next day, it was 2 brothers and their uncle food. And then it's just one of them and their own. I mean, somebody's going to try to manipulate the system, is going to get you. The leasing, even if you said 6 months, opens up. I mean, it opens up a system. Trying to think, again, because we're trying to have a global rule that right now benefits one person.
but one's already, so the way I believe it reads, or my understanding with what you're saying, the Sticky Rice place, they own that old car wash and they have a mobile thing. They own the
It's not a
property.
restaurant.
But when that was there when this ordinance was written.
Oh, it's grandfathered in.
No, it was there, and they supposedly, when we wrote this, it was carved out because they own that building. That's the reason why they could have it, was because they own that building. And so it's their property, and they own the Sticky Rice trailer as well.
And they're paying taxes on
And
that
they're
structure.
paying taxes, which is the goal, is we want to protect brick and mortar. And so, is there a way to, if you don't own the food truck, you don't own the property that the food truck sits on, that it could be terminated,
So
or that it could be temporary?
if we were to say, just thinking out loud, if we were to say that during the construction or renovation of a restaurant facility, the owner or lessor can essentially, would have to work the language, have a food truck for a period of time not to exceed 180 days.
Yeah. That would cover it. I'd be.
Okay, so, to me, I think we ought to try this anyway. I may have to go back and check some legality. I think if that is the idea, we ought to pass that as the first reading. I mean, that's what this is. And then with the idea of the next meeting, do a second reading. If I find out we can't, at the next meeting, we'll have another first reading. But I'm pretty comfortable with this. I think this just gives us maximum flexibility if that's more along the lines of what y'all are wanting.
I think that's
Yeah, I don't want,
I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
And I will tell you, I was not the person, I mean, I was on the emails and I was the one brainstorming, trying to figure this out. I've got other people who spend a lot more time on this, so if they say, Slater, you forgot about G, we'll deal with it and we'll be back here. But,
Courtney was the lead on this.
yeah, she really put a lot of time and effort, and I
communicated several times.
But with that idea of during the pendency of a construction or renovation of a restaurant facility, you can have I mean, essentially, it's a portable kitchen, is what you're saying.
that's what they're doing.
Food truck, okay. If y'all want to pass that on first reading, we will have that language in writing for y'all for a second reading in a couple of weeks.
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 1238 with the change amendment that Mr. Slater made.
That's the
It's all recorded, right?
That's a mic drop moment.
We may have to play that one back.
So, it's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 1238 as presented by council, with the amendments as presented by council. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that is last item on that agenda. We will move to executive session. I'm tired. I guess I'm commissioner.